Howdy Beans, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Howdy Beans podcast. I'm your host, Luke, the intrepid, dashing adventurer. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're all good. Today, we're going to be looking at Tomb Raider Legend from 2006. Now, if you know me, if you listen to the podcast long enough, you know that one of my favorite video game characters of all time is the one and only, the goddess, Lady Croft herself, and I am so overjoyed to be talking about this game today. But before we get into all of that, I've got to do a bit of housekeeping because I like to keep my house nice and clean, especially if Lady Croft herself is coming around for tea. I've got to make sure the place is spotless. So to do that, make sure that you follow me on X at howdybeans_pod. Also, if you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And finally, if you listen to this on Spotify on your mobile phone, don't forget to leave a 5-star rating. So, as I mentioned, I'm looking into Tomb Raider Legend 2006 on the Xbox 360. Oh, I have so much plans for the Lara Croft video games. If you've been listening to the show long enough, you know how big of a fan I am, and I'm so over the moon to be talking about not just this game because I'm really nostalgic for it, but all the other games, all the other Lara Croft games. Now, I just want to sort of give sort of a brief sort of explanation of what sort of games I'm going to be looking at. So I'm not going to be looking at anything from 96 all the way up to 2003. So that involves Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3, The Last Revelation, Chronicles, and The Angel of Darkness. Now, I know that they've done a remaster of those. They've done a remaster of 1 till 3, and they did a remaster of 4 till 6. But I don't actually currently have those. So I'm only going to be looking at the Tomb Raider games that I currently own, which are Legend, Anniversary, Underworld, as well as the 2013 Tomb Raider reboot, the 2015 Rise of the Tomb Raider sequel to Tomb Raider, and then Shadow of the Tomb Raider from 2018. Those are the Lara Croft games I'm going to be looking into. And potentially, if down the road, that if people like this series and or want to hear more from it, then by all means I will happily look into it and check it out. But that's kind of the idea that I've got, is I'm going to look at sort of the Lara Croft games that I own, see what they're like, see if there's any nostalgia, that sort of thing. And yeah, I'm really, really excited. Also, just to kind of heads up, to do a bit of sort of like I said, early sort of housekeeping. I have looked at and reviewed the Lara Croft movies. I looked at the 2 Angelina Jolie movies, as well as the 2018 Tomb Raider reboot with Alicia Vikander. I've reviewed them all, so again, if you want to check them out, please do. I also looked at the Legend of the Tomb Raider TV series on Netflix, which was bloody brilliant. I reviewed that last year. So there's a lot of Lara Croft content already available if you want to listen to that, if you want to sort of play this game with me and play the game and then listen to my review, or sort of either or that. But there's a lot of Lara Croft content already, so please do check it out if you are interested. So let's get into the game. So I'm not going to go into it a lot, but I'm going to talk sort of briefly about the plot of the game. So Tomb Raider Legend retells the story of British archaeologist/adventurer Lara Croft. As a young girl, she and her mother, Amelia, are the only survivors of the plane crash in the Himalayas. Publicly, Lara was the only survivor of the crash, as her mother was apparently killed upon interacting with a magical artifact in the Nepalese temple where they took shelter. After her ordeal, Lara goes on an archaeological expedition with her father, Richard, before his disappearance and presumed death in Colombia when she is 16. In the years since, she has become both famous and infamous for her work as an archaeologist and explorer, privately driven by the need to understand her mother's fate. So that's kind of give you an idea of what the story is about. As for the development of the game, so I broke it down to development, game design, and story and character design. So starting with development, so the British-based studio Core Designs developed the Tomb Raider series until 2003. Following the successful release of the original game in 1996, they produced 4 successive sequels between 1997 and 2000. Their 6th and last Tomb Raider game, Tomb Raider: The Angel of Darkness, beset by development problems, was rushed to an early release to tie in with the 2003 film Tomb Raider The Cradle of Life, a sequel to the successful 2001 film. The game was a crucial failure due to its technical problems and blamed for the commercial failure of The Cradle of Life by Paramount Pictures. I think that's a bit unfair that they did that. I go into more detail when I talked about the movie, but I just thought it was very unfair that they blamed the movie's failure on the game's failure. Like, no, the game failed because it was rushed out. That's why it failed, not because of the movie. And if, again, not any spoilers, but I do recommend to listen to my review. But actually, I really enjoyed it, and it's actually a lot better than I remember it being. Anyway, we're not here for that. We're here for the game. So moving on, the failure of Angel of Darkness, in addition to general fatigue with the series, became among core design staff, prompted the cancellation of planned sequels, and Idris Interactive moved development responsibilities to another studio. That was then led to Crystal Dynamics as they took over responsibility for developing future Tomb Raider games. They had gained fame for their work on the Gex and Legacy of Kain series. The team responsible for Legend was the same team responsible for the Legacy of Kain Defiance. According to producer Morgan Gray, the team were woed initially at being tasked with producing the Tomb Raider series before fully understanding the challenges involved. A notable addition to the team was Toby Gard. If you don't know who Toby Gard is, he is one of the key figures in actually the creation of the Tomb Raider character. Again, he was one of the creative figures of the Tomb Raider franchise as both lead designer of the first Tomb Raider and Lara's creator. Gard joined the Crystal Dynamics team during the pre-production phase. He has been referred to as a senior designer, creative consultant, and lead character designer. Gard also helped the team flesh out Lara's early animations. He also co-wrote the overall story and worked on creating the characters of both Lara and the rest of the cast. Production of the game began in 2004, lasting approximately 2 years. As for the game design itself, so looking how they needed to revive the series after the negativity surrounding the Angel of Darkness, the team decided that Lara's movement and control scheme needed to be completely redesigned for a modern gaming audience. Lara had to return to exploring ancient ruins and tombs following the controversial focus on urban locations in the Angel of Darkness. Small teams brainstormed and worked on each location. Bolivia was chosen for the opening level so that Lara could scale cliffs. Originally, no urban levels were to be featured, but after discussion, the team decided to include an urban environment to provide gameplay and variety, leading to the creation of the Tokyo level. When creating each location, the team used images of local scenery and architecture, so their level designers remained authentic. A significant level cut from the game was a third South American location which would have held a piece of Excalibur. The team decided 3 locations would place too much focus on South America, so they created the Kazakhstan level to replace it. The motorcycle segment were designed as being similar to minigames, changing the pace for players. A bike segment intended to end the England level was also cut due to scheduling concerns. The control schemes for the previous titles, which involved moving Lara through the levels built using a grid system, which was very tanky and very sort of like, if you've ever played any of the old Lara Croft games, you know how tanky and difficult she was to maneuver, was completely scrapped. The new core control system, dubbed Fluid Movement, would enable players to learn how to control Lara and safely navigate levels with a minimum of difficulty. Combat was designed around Lara's acrobatic prowess and primary goal as an adventurer. It was balanced so it would be non-intrusive and enjoyable for both newcomers and series veterans. Finalizing Lara's animations, which were all hand animated, took a long time and accounted for an estimated 15 to 20% of the game's code. Several moves and items had to be cut at various stages of development. Realistic physics, something still novel in gaming at the time, was integrated into gameplay. Rather than using available off-the-shelf physics engines, the team created a custom physics system which handled everything from puzzle design to character environmental movement. The control scheme and overall atmosphere drew inspiration from Ico. Another influence on the team was the original Tomb Raider and its 1997 sequel. Online elements were considered but dropped so the team could focus on delivering a polished single-player experience. Legend uses a game engine based on an updated version of technology used in the Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. Creating more open environments was a challenge for the development team. Their environment design for the Legacy of Kain series were more enclosed and required a different engine and level architecture. A key part of the engine design was a streaming system. Levels were divided into individual units which were loaded in and out depending on Lara's position in the level. This allowed the team to create levels with a high amount of detail without exceeding the memory limitations of their planned consoles. The team later said that developing the engine in parallel with the game's content caused issues both when deciding on what should be kept from each version and making adjustments. The artificial intelligence was redesigned to react to Lara's actions, with human enemies being able to deflect and flank her. I wanted to hint on what it said about popping in and out of detail and having been able to have levels having more detail. This is my sort of game design degree coming out here. Basically, in layman's terms, what it means is whatever the camera's looking at, that is what is being loaded. Anything that's behind the camera that the player can't see is not there. And it's like a streaming sort of thing that allows you to have full high sort of fidelity and sort of HD sort of textures of the time without worrying about sort of having storage and memory and that sort of thing. And what that means is the fact of as you pan the camera around, as Lara sees and what you see, anything that goes out of Lara's view basically isn't rendered, isn't there. And it's not until you turn back around that it's rendered again. It's just a way to kind of bring down space and that sort of thing. It's quite clever, actually. And there's a lot of magic in game design. There's one thing I found when I was doing it at university was the fact of there's a lot of tricks into game design. That is, a lot of it's just smoke and mirrors. And that if you didn't know how something worked, you wouldn't know because that's the trick. But again, once you know how the secret sauce is made, you either enjoy it or you kind of like, you lose your joy of it. For me, it's a bit of both. It's like, I know how they did that. So it's like, it's a bit of a shame. But at the same stage of, when you get something that you don't know how they did it, you're like, how did they do that? And you try to figure it out. So it depends. Anyway, as for the story and character design, so for the story of Legend, the team reworked Lara's character and backstory. Later in a 2016 interview, the team stated their opinion that Legend was not a reboot, but instead a reimagining that modified but drew on pre-existing canon. They incorporated elements of her original background and early adventures into her new backstory and overworld setting as a homage to Core Design's work and the general fan base. Select elements from the first two Tomb Raider films were also included. The subtitle Legend was intended to represent the return of Lara's origins, which the game as a whole represented. The story had a three-person team working on it during the entire development period, rather than the traditional use of CGI and real-time cutscenes. A combination of in-engine cinematics and dialogue during gameplay told the story. The team wanted to include a character from the original continuity, but almost all the major characters Lara had encountered were dead. They decided to use a reimagined version of Zip, who had previously cameoed in Lara Croft Tomb Raider Chronicles. The use of Zip and Alistair allowed the team to create a new dynamic for storytelling through dialogue exchanges during gameplay. Rutland was initially a much more stereotypical macho bad guy, but was eventually redesigned into the more intellectual version used in the final game. The reboot story contextualize Lara's treasure hunting to understand and perhaps reverse her mother's fate. While the central mystery surrounding Excalibur was completed by the game's end, the central thread of Amelia's fate was left unresolved. The team intended it as the main narrative thread binding future installments. The central theme of the game drew from the hero's journey theories of Joseph Campbell. The team worked in Arthurian myths and the use of Excalibur as part of the story surrounding Lara's quest. An important part of the redesign was Lara herself, a process with which Guard was initially involved. The team initially used Lara's model from the Angel of Darkness as a base and made adjustments such as slimming her down and removing her harsh lines from her face. When Guard joined the team, he said he wanted to completely redesign Lara, something the team were happy with because of his role in her creation. Among the changes he implemented were an entirely new outfit and changing Lara's braided hair for a ponytail. When redesigning her figure, God wanted to keep Lara's female figure while focusing on realistic bone and muscle structure. Despite the redesigns, God did not feel that Lara's persona had changed much from her initial vision, but was represented more clearly to players. As for sort of the voice cast, so Lara's voice actress was recast. Keely Hawes, a British movie and television actress known for her work on Spooks, replaced Jonelle Elliott, who had voiced the character from Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation to The Angel of Darkness. Horns was the fourth actress to voice the character. Shelley Blond, the voice of Lara from the original game, was also approached for the role. Blond confirmed her interest in reprising the role, but eventually Crystal Dynamics settled on Halls because of her celebrity status. Idris's staff described her as perfect for the role, having the right balance of aristocracy and attitude to really bring to life Lara Croft in all her glory. Horns was given the role after reading a couple of lines given to her by her voice agent, who sent a tape to Crystal Dynamics. Also, British model Kaima Adabib, I can't pronounce your name, I do apologise, was employed to portray Lara Croft at publicity events. I do apologise with the name at the end there. It really threw me off. But yeah, so that is all of the development. As for sort of the more, so I guess probably you could say the interesting part of the review. As for my thoughts on the actual game so far, so I've only played 2 levels. I'm not that far in, but so far I'm really enjoying it. Like, this game has a lot of nostalgia for me. I have so many memories of watching my dad play the original Lara Croft games on his PC, and like that's back in the day, like when you bought a game on your PC and it came in a huge box. Right, I remember my dad bringing that home and just seeing on the front cover this woman that just again at a young age just took my breath away, and then watching the game and just being like enthralled of like, this is gaming, this is what video games are and what they can be. And then when he got the 360, I was still playing on the original Xbox, and this was one of the first games that he got as well. I think you got Cameo as well, and I just remember being enthralled but also blown away of the HD graphics, of how beautiful the world looks, how incredible Lara looks, and how well she moves, because again, as I mentioned, she was very tanky. Like if you wanted to move Lara, it was like she couldn't move her neck. You had to move her whole body, and then you could jump or move. The problem is, if you just too much, a little bit too up and to the left, just a tad bit, she would just nosedive and then not go where you wanted to go, and then she'd fall to her death loads of times. It was very annoying. But that's just how games work, because again, it worked off a grid system. That's how sort of the original Lara games worked. Whereas with this, you had full-on acrobatic movement. And you still do. And it's that joy of going back to it now and getting all those memories back, and just remembering how long it took me and my dad, because again, we were just blown away of how good the game looked and felt. And it was one of those where we would just play for ages and ages in the same level, just like, oh my God, that's gorgeous. And I was getting those same moments now here in like 2025, where I was just like, this game still looks good. Now, granted, I'm playing on the Xbox Series X, so it is upscaled and it runs a lot smoother, probably runs at a higher frame rate as well. But I was just amazed. Like, this was a 2006 game on the original on Xbox 360. Like, wow, it still looks fantastic, and it plays great as well. Like Lara Croft, she is a lot more sort of mobile. You can do a lot more with her. The action is a lot of fun. You have a lock-on system, so you can have those badass cool moments. There are moments when you're in firefights, and it kind of feels like a Western at times, because you'll be shooting at one guy, and then it'll be like the Y button will show up around somewhere, and if you press Y, Lara will like do an action shot where she'll turn around, she'll shoot whatever you press Y at, and you can shoot it at like old-fashioned like columns, and she'll break away the column bits, and the column will fall on the enemies. Or the transformers that are like on the power lines, you can shoot them and they'll fall on enemies and electrocute them. Like, there's really cool epic sort of moments. And then you've got the puzzles as well. Like, the puzzles are like the type of puzzles where And what I've always loved about Lara Croft is the fact if you could go into them and you could kind of just bash blocks together and you might solve it, or actually if you was just to set back and actually look at your environment and see what you can and can't do, you'd be surprised. Like there's this thing called the rads, and it's like these goggles, and you can highlight things in the environment and it will tell you if that's like a movable object or if that's a pressure pad and things like that. And it kind of gives you an idea of like, you've got these tools, these are the things that sort of interact with the puzzle. Now it's up to you to figure out what you need. And one of the first puzzles you have one crate, and then you've got 3 pressure pads, and then underneath off these little pedestals you've got this little sort of dry sort of where there used to be like riverbed sort of thing, and there's a little seesaw, and there's a 2 crates. And if you're smart enough, what you'll realize, if you move the one crate and allow the seesaw to fall, if you put the crate on the edge of that and you climb back up and then you jump off the ledge onto the seesaw, it will propel the crate up. And if you do that twice, you've got the 2 crates where you need them, and you can put them on the pressure pads and you can get to the next level. Again, it's really clever, classic Tomb Raider sort of puzzles, and I really appreciate it for that. But yeah, so far I'm getting nostalgia, I'm getting old memories. The gameplay is fantastic, and like I love this era of gaming. The reason being is the fact of we went from what we got with the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation, original Xbox, and like the GameCube and things like that. We got sort of games that looked fantastic, but you know, they were sort of fantastic for the time. It was when you got the 360, when you got the PlayStation, when you went to sort of the next gen, the technological leap was like, to be honest, it was one of the biggest. It was one of those where it was like, oh my God, this is power. It's like, I haven't had that feeling since I went from Xbox 360 to Xbox One. You know, that sort of thing of, oh my God, this is what next gen looks like. And you don't really get that nowadays, to be honest, because of how powerful consoles are and how sort of big games are nowadays, and how much more you can do with them. All you really get nowadays with a lot of new games is, oh my God, that's pretty. Which again, yeah, it's pretty, but pretty. I'd rather have a functionally sort of clever physics-based sort of game that actually does stuff with this new technology than just being pretty. But that's my personal sort of preference. Whereas with this game, you know, it was like, okay, we couldn't do all this before with really high tech sort of physics, but now we can because we've got better hardware. So now you've got really fantastic looking water and water physics that actually moves when you move around it. You know, the physics space where you can do all the puzzles and things like that. The way Lara moves, her animations, and everything is just like, yeah, it was just one of those where I'm playing. I'm like, I can't believe this game came out in 2006. It looks gorgeous, and it's aged like fine wine. So yeah, I am just enthralled, as you can tell. I'm having such a great time, and I can't wait to keep playing. It doesn't feel like a long game, to be honest. Some of the levels feel longer than others. Like the first level kind of was like an introduction sort of tutorial to kind of get you into the story and get you into how Lara Croft moves. And then the second level felt a bit longer. So I don't know, maybe some levels are longer than others, but it doesn't feel like it's going to take me a long time to complete it. But either way, I'm really, really excited. The only real sort of, not negative, sort of bad thing, if anything, because it's not really bad, it's more just a personal sort of thing I have, that I have about this game, is the fact of when you climb up ropes and you swing on ropes, it's really difficult it's basically, Lara is really smooth and acrobatic when you're moving her, but as soon as you put her hanging off a rope, she turns back into classic Lara again. She's very tanky. It's the fact of you have to awkwardly move the left stick either left or right, but if you happen to go left or right, but slightly to the upper left, upper right, she will start to, it's like a weird hump shimmy around, but she won't go anywhere. She'll just weirdly hump the rope, and it's like, no, Lara, no, we're not doing that today, right? I need you to move left or right because I need you to swing and jump. And yeah, that's the only sort of issue I have. But apart from that, everything else goes quite smoothly, and I am enjoying it. It was just funny of like, this Lara, like, we haven't got time for this. We've got to go find Excalibur. We ain't got time to hump a rope. Okay, let's move it on. You know. But yeah, that's the only real sort of niggle I have. But apart from that, everything else is fine. So yeah, I'm going to go off and play the rest of Tomb Raider. And when I finish and come back, I'm going to tell you how wonderful it is or how bad it was or whatever. I have a feeling it's going to be good, but we will see. But I will catch you all in a minute. Right, and welcome back, everybody. So I have now finished Tomb Raider Legend, and finally going into first impressions, it's not the greatest game in the world. I just want to start by saying that it's good, but it's not great. It's more of a best way I can explain it. It is a expose. It is a way to show off what Lara Croft could be for next generation, or shall we say next generation for the Xbox 360, PlayStation, and that sort of thing. It's more of an exhibition piece. It's more of a like, this is now we've got like more power. We can do more things. We can do better things with the engines. We can have a Lara that's a lot more smoother. Is a lot more acrobatic. We can do a lot more sort of things with the puzzles and physics effects and that sort of thing. And that's how it feels, because there's not really much in the way of story. Not to say that I didn't enjoy it. Like, I really actually did enjoy myself, because it's still Lara Croft at the end of the day. Lara still feels and sounds and plays like Lara. She just plays a lot easier than she did in the classic Lara games. You're still going from setting to setting. You're still going from place to place. You're going from like Nepal, then you're in Bolivia, then you're in like West Africa, then you're in London, and you're in loads of different locations. Like, you're still globetrotting. You're still trying to and solve a case, a mystery of like Excalibur and the Arthurian myths and all that. Like, everything that you want is here, but it's not really like everything you want for a Lara Croft game, shall I say. Let me rephrase. For a Lara Croft game is here, but in terms of like story and things like that, it's not really here. And that's how I took it. It was a fact of, even though this game, is good and I enjoyed it, it's not the greatest of all time. It's not the best Lara Croft game. It is more so the fact of, this is Lara for the Xbox 360 era, for that generation of consoles, to prove that this is what Lara can be in a modern sort of setting, and that we can build off this. And again, they did with Anniversary, because I'm sure that, I think, if I remember correctly from the introduction, I said they used the same engine for the Tomb Raider Anniversary, and then they did a brand new sort of game with Underworld, which was the last one they did before they rebooted the whole series again. And then 2013, we had Tomb Raider, and sort of all the games that came after that. So yeah, first impressions, it's good, not great, but it's visually great, and it feels fantastic, and it looks great. So that's my first sort of takeaway. As for kind of getting down to sort of the more the nitty gritty brass tack side of it, in terms of story, there's not much there, to be honest. Most of it is done through contextual sort of side. It's kind of done through the voices in Lara's head, in terms of the people like Zip and her butler, those people talking to her back in London while they're doing research. Oh, Lara, we did some research and we found out this sort of thing. We found out that sort of thing. Or when you meet the villains like Rutland and Amanda, when you meet these people, they sort of expose dump and that sort of things, and like there's a lot of visual sort of stuff as well. But apart from that, you don't get the story. The story's not that deep. It's just the fact of, there was a sword that Lara and her mother found when they crash landed in the Nepalese mountains. Lara's mother ends up grabbing the sword. As she grabs it and pulls it out, the sword explodes. Her mother disappears. And then that kind of leads into sort of Lara trying to figure out what happened to her mother. What is this sword? How's it all linked in, and that sort of thing. And that's sort of the sort of beginning of end of it. And then I don't want to ruin the twist, but there is sort of a bit at the end of a twist where you realise why her mother grabbed the sword and where it means. The only real downside I have in terms of the story is that it ends on a cliffhanger. It ends on a sort of, it just ends, really. You have this boss fight, which it isn't difficult. It's one of the easiest boss fights I've ever done, especially how with Lara, you can just like dodge to the left, dodge to the right. And as the creature was swiping at me, I just dodge to the left, dodge to the right, shoot. So it wasn't overly difficult, to be honest, but it was more so just like, you do this boss fight, you have this cutscene, that I accidentally skipped by accident. Like, I pressed the A button by accident, it skipped it, and I ended up getting the credits rolled, and I got an achievement for completing the game. So I had to go back through the special features to find the end cutscene so I could rewatch the cutscene. But it's like a little cutscene where like it explains what happened with the sword and Lara's mum, and why Amanda wanted it, and all this and that. And then there's this really cool line where basically Lara basically looks at Amanda and goes, "Every breath is a gift from me." and you better remember that. And it's such a awesome line, especially through the voice of Lara. Like it's very sort of like a very dark Lara, but at this point with the story, you have a Lara Croft that's like trying to find where her mom has disappeared to, where she has gone. Is she dead? Is she alive? Where is she? And then it just ends. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, they better carry on this story with Underworld. Like they better carry on this story in Anniversary, or like I've got to find out what happens next. So I've got my fingers crossed now. Like I said, I played Underworld years and years ago and I don't remember it at all. So I'm hoping that now I've completed this game and I know how this one ends, that when I get round to playing Underworld, I now know what happens next. So I've got my fingers crossed. As for the gameplay, this is the best part in my opinion. As I mentioned, if you played the older Lara Croft games, they were a grid system, very much tank controls. You had to really sort of move Lara very precisely to jump things. And again, it is for the era. That's what it was for the era. But playing on, so I played obviously on Xbox Series X, but it's from the 360. As I mentioned, this game is a sort of expose to show like this is what Lara could be for this generation, and the gameplay proves that. You have a lot of scaling, like scaling where like Lara shimmies up pipes and she jumps from one pipe to another. She does a lot of swinging on poles and rock climbing and stuff like that. That's all great. One thing that I love the most about this Lara is the fact that she's just so agile. You can dodge around, you can move back and forth, you can dodge while shooting. You can have Lara with a twin pistols in the air shooting an enemy, and then you can dodge and she keeps shooting as she dodges, which is brilliant. And then you've got the puzzles as well. The gameplay with the puzzles is a lot of fun. Like I said, the physics are done really, really well. The puzzles aren't difficult, I will admit. Not that I really wanted them to be difficult, but a lot of them are just kind of sit there, and as long as you look around, just as long as you're aware of what's going on in your surroundings and you actually sit and you pay attention to what's going on around you, they're not overly difficult. It's just one of those that you just got to pay attention. But okay, I know where that is. And if you use your rads, your little sort of not telescope, binocular type things, it highlights a lot of the things that you can interact with anyway. But the gameplay is a lot of fun. It is the best part of it, really. And again, it goes in with the visuals and the art style, which we'll get onto in a minute, of just showing off how good a sort of modern Lara Croft game can be. As for, again, the art style, it is dated. It's not the most beautiful game. Again, when I played it on the 360 in 2006, it was very beautiful and gorgeous, because I've never seen a Lara Croft game look like that before. So back then it was beautiful, but obviously now it's aged. Some parts look good, some parts don't look good. The water effects are fantastic. The ripple, like when you jump into the water, you get the ripples around Lara, and as you move around, you get like realistic type ripples. And again, a lot of modern games don't do that. So you've got to say a bit of a testament that 2006 game of Lara had a pretty good water physics, whereas modern games, a lot of them don't even bother with water physics. They just have water. It doesn't really interact. So but yeah, it feels like a Lara Croft game. I like the redesign of Lara. Instead of her sort of turquoise sort of jumpsuit that she's wearing a more sort of adventurous sort of brown. She's got sort of her braided, that sort of thing. That was a lot of fun. One thing I also wanted to mention as well is, before getting to the collectibles, is they have this little play area, really. It's like a sandbox. They have Croft Manor, and in Croft Manor, as you play through the game, you will unlock special bonus features, sort of collectibles and things like that. Like you can see like art, and you can see models of characters and enemies and things like that. But when you play in Croft Manor, it's kind of like I said, sandbox. You've got to go through it and you've got to find puzzles, and certain puzzles that you do will give you twin pistols, and you do other puzzles and you got your grapple and you'll get your torch. And what you'll do with these things, once you unlock certain things that you find as you go through, you can use your pistols to like shoot switches, and that will unlock something, and that will get you like another little collectible. Will be gold, bronze, or silver, gold or bronze. And then you have like other ones where you find your grapple, and now you can use your grapple to pull out poles. So now Lara can swing from one part of the manor to the other, and you can find secret areas. And I like that. I like that idea of, you've completed the main game, which is wonderful. Now you've completed that. Take all the skills that you've learned from the main game and then put them into Croft Manor. And now you've got to go through the manor. You've got to work out where certain things go, what you do with this. Now you found this new bit of equipment. Maybe go back to older areas and and you can now do things that you couldn't do before because you didn't have the grapple, or you didn't have your pistols, or whatever. Or you didn't have your torch, it was too dark, so you couldn't see where you were going. Little things like that. Like, I really appreciate that extra bit of effort being like, look, we made a full game, but also we have Croft Manor as well, where you can go around and explore and really sort of just enjoy what this game has to offer. And this is why I say this game, is a sort of expose. It is a sort of what's the word instead of expose? There is a word that I'm thinking of, but I can't think of it. And I know my luck. I'm going to listen to this review later on and be like, "Oh, it was that word, you idiot!" And just know I will. But it is a showcase. That's probably the best or better word than expose. It's a showcase of what you can do. And when you play the Croft Manor, you really realize that. You realize that it is just a way to play around with the engine, really play around with the character to be able to. She's got a gym and it's full of poles and rock climbing, things like that. So you can climb up, you can volley off one wall and jump on a pole and swing to another ledge, and you can get collectibles while you do that. And like, you can play around with switches, and the switches unlock secret doors like underneath the pool. So you get into the pool, so under the pool, and you're into another room, and there's more puzzles and things to do there. And I really appreciate that because it adds a bit more to what you've already got. And I really, really like that. As for the collectibles, there's not really much to say about the collectibles. The collectibles are just trinkets that you find. There's no real story, anything to them. It's just like I said, you either get gold, silver, or bronze. The bronze ones are everywhere. They're easy to find. Silver, they're a bit harder to see, and you have to do a few little sort of parkour, that sort of things to get to them. And the gold ones, I don't think I ever saw a single gold one, but it turns out, and this is another thing as well, there's even a time trial mode where if you play the levels again, you have a time trial, so you have to get through the level in a certain amount of time. I never got around to doing it because I'm not really big on time trials, but you do have these time trials where if you do that, you can get other sort of collectibles that you couldn't get before when you first played through. And I imagine if you did the time trials, you'd probably get the gold collectibles by doing that. But I wasn't very big on doing the collectibles. I got the collectibles that I did through playing the main game and through going through Croft Manor, and I got enough that I felt like, I've really understood the idea of what the game is, and I've kind of pulled back. But coming to a wrap up, coming to my overall thoughts of this game is a showcase to show off what Lara Croft can be. And I know I've already said that, but it's true. It is just a showcase. There's not much in terms of story. The gameplay really is what you come for, in my opinion. And that is what they were mostly trying to show off, in my opinion, with this game is like, look, this is what Lara can be for this century. And this is what she can be going forwards. And if anything, this is what they kind of carried on doing. And I'm glad for that. Don't worry so much about the story. I would say with this game, just you're here for the visuals, you're here for the Lara Croft and all that. So enjoy that. The voice actress was really, really good. She actually felt like Lara. She felt very sort of posh, but also very sort of rebellish as well, which I really enjoyed. But yeah, overall, it's a pretty good game. It's not great. It's not going to blow your head off. I think you get more fun out of it if you're a Lara Croft fan. If you're like me and you love Lara Croft, it won't bother you that there's not much story. You will just be pleasantly happy just to be playing a Lara Croft game, to be honest. And I was, for me. So for that, it is pretty good and I enjoy it. If you're not so big in Lara Croft, you might not like it because it is a bit dated. Even if I'm playing it on a next-gen system, even then, that can only go so far, really, in pushing of how good the game's going to look and feel. So you might not enjoy it, but for me, as a Lara Croft fan, I got what I wanted out of it, and I am more than happy to play Anniversary, to see what Anniversary is like, and then to go on to sort of Underworld. So I'm excited. So so that is my little review of Lara Croft Legend. I'm excited to go off to the next game, which is Tomb Raider Anniversary. That came out the following year, so this came out in 2006. Anniversary came out in 2007. I haven't had a big play, but I've gone online and I've looked at a bit of a gameplay, and it looks pretty fun. It looks like they've definitely updated a few things, so I'm excited to see where that goes. But please do follow me and check out all my other episodes when that goes live. Also, if you like Lara Croft and you're jumping onto here, I have reviewed all of the movies, so please do go back and check out my review of all the Lara Croft films and the Netflix series as well. And yeah, I don't know when I'll get around to playing another Lara Croft game, because as of recording this, I am a bit busy, but fingers crossed I'll find some time and I'll be playing Anniversary and that comes out soon. But by the time this episode comes out, I would have actually played and pre-recorded that review anyway. Fingers crossed. If I've planned it out properly, we will see. But don't worry about that. You will know when the episode is live, because I will put it on my X or Twitter at howdybeans_pod. I will post it there, and I'll post it on the community notes on YouTube as well. So just keep up to date and follow me in those sort of places, and you will always know when I'm about to release an episode or what the episode will be. So thank you very, very much for listening. I've been your host, Luke, the intrepid adventurer, lover of all things Lara Croft. You've been listening to the Howdy Beans podcast, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye-bye, guys.